Welcome back to News 46. Here's your health tip brought to you by Desert View Hospital. As the U.S. deals with an obesity epidemic, many younger women are having bariatric surgery for weight loss. But is there a risk for the infants of women who have had the surgery? And is there a way to decrease perinatal complications? And is there an optimal time to wait to have children after surgery?
In the United States, 1 in 5 women are obese at the time of conception. Obesity during pregnancy can increase the risk of complications for both mothers and infants. That is one of the reasons why younger women might turn to bariatric or weight loss surgery.
Bariatric surgery is becoming a very common operation in the United States in particular. And just in the past about 5 years, the rates of bariatric surgery have doubled from about 4 per 100 patients to about 8 per 100 patients.
Dr. Brody Parent of the University of Washington Medical Center and co-authors studied the birth certificates and hospital discharge data of more than 10,000 mothers and infants in Washington state from 1980 to 2013. They studied 2 groups, one of women that had bariatric surgery prior to pregnancy and the other that did not have weight loss surgery. They wanted to see if the infants of the women who had bariatric surgery were at higher risk for prematurity, low birth weight, and intensive care admission.
The way to reduce that risk is perhaps by waiting 2 to 3 years after they've had the operation. If they give birth before that 2 to 3 year interval, there's a higher risk of their infant requiring an ICU admission, or their infant being low weight or premature.
Dr. Parent says bariatric or weight loss surgery has many potential benefits, but recommends waiting as long as possible before conception in order to decrease risks for the mothers and their infants. Laura Berger, The JAMA Report.
During the past 3 years in Washington state, about 200 women a year have had a bariatric operation prior to giving birth.
More Americans voted for Hillary Clinton than any other losing presidential candidate in U.S. history. The Democrat outpaced President-elect Donald Trump by almost 2.9 million votes, with her 65,844,954, or 48.2%, to his 62,979,879, or 46.1%, according to revised and certified final election results from all 50 states and the District of Columbia.
Nearly 6.4 million Americans have selected the Affordable Care Act policies through the federal exchange for coverage starting January 1st. That's 400,000 more than had selected policies a year ago. The number of people opting for the Affordable Care Act is under more scrutiny than usual this year, since congressional Republicans have pledged to dismantle it soon after Trump takes office on January 20th. Even before the election, there were concerns that customers would be deterred by price hikes. The average premium for the benchmark Silver plan soared 22% for 2017, and the fact that some insurers pulled out of the exchanges.
Well, an Act of Kindness Award was presented at the Board of County Commissioners yesterday.
Deanna and I do this all the time, and we talk about the Act of Kindness Award. We want to make it non-political. We never want to involve politics into it. But Frank has done so much for our community. I asked several veterans and several other people, what do you think you want to say about Frank? And I looked at this. We have one person, he wrote it down. I'm going to say Carl Jones wrote it down for me. So I'm going to go ahead and just read some of the things he said. Always candid, tactful, and professional. Superb professional and leader. Provides oversight and expertise in support of the Veterans Cemetery Committee. Exemplifies the highest standards of commitment and ascribes to the ideals of selfless service to the town of Pahrump, and I'm going to add, and to the county of Nye. He can be relied upon to accomplish the toughest assignments and attain the best possible results for the town of Pahrump and the county of Nye. Make sound business management decisions, unquestionable integrity in his dealings with the public. He was a valuable asset to the County Commission Board, and I have to agree with that. Honest and forthright, tells it like it is, and he's a team player of the highest caliber. And for that, Frank, we looked at you for the Butch Harper Act of Kindness Award.
And a great man to put that together, too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank for all the veterans and all the other comments that were made for Frank, because everything was well deserved. And we appreciate you. We appreciate everybody here for all you've done as well. And thank you, Deanna, for standing behind the camera, making this a possibility.
Thank you.
Our own Tonya Brum caught up with Fire Chief Scott Lewis to discuss cold weather safety.
Well, there's a lot of things to really consider when the temperatures drop. Number one is the increase in falls. As some of the water that accumulates on the ground from our recent storms, it turns to ice. We also have a lot more tripping hazards because people are putting more clothing on, some bulky clothing, and so they have the opportunity to fall more often. We're also running into the situations where something happens on the outside and we have to worry about thermal protection for our seniors overnight. Make sure we have the ability to contact if we do have a fall or something else occurs, that they have a means of summoning help immediately versus being out all night until discovered by either a neighbor or a family member.
And then discover. I know this is another issue that I'm familiar with, is I know space heaters, fireplaces, pellet stoves, etc. are frequently used rather than central heating for economic reasons. Please explain the safest ways and the safest products to use for a heating source at this time of year.
Well, we have a tendency to really insulate our homes, and so we don't want to use kerosene heaters, things like that that give off carbon monoxide within the residence. When we use electric or space heaters and such, we don't want to use them when we're not in the environment. We certainly don't want to leave them on during the course of the night, overnight. What we can do is add some simple additional clothing or additional blankets onto ourselves to help keep us warm. You can warm the environment up, then place those things on, turn it off for the overnight hours. The other thing to consider is don't overload the electric system or your electrical system in your house by placing space heaters into strip outlets or placing them into outlets that haven't been checked for a long period of time. Don't place the heaters within 3 feet of combustible materials. That would be bedding, sofas and furniture, or any of the types of drapes, things along those lines.
So it's better off to put them like in the middle of the room.
It is. It gives a much safer environment. Be careful with our pets though. We want to make sure our pets, that the type of appliance you're using can't topple over and hurt one of our pets, and especially that is also protected from our children.
Thank you, Chief Lewis, for your seasonal update on safety tips for seniors. This is Tonya Brum reporting from KPVM News 46.
All right, we'll have your auction news and your Save a Pet when we return.